so much for your company. I am Pius Kojo Baka. To that very big story we are learning, the Bank of Ghana is insisting that decisive measures are being implemented to turn around losses posted for last year. Well, this was captured in the 2023 annual accounts released by the Bank of Ghana. George Yafe has more.
The Bank of Ghana is looking at fully implementing its zero financing of government operations as one of those key measures that should help improve its financial position going forward. It believes that the central bank's high level of exposure over the past years to government contributed to the more than 60 billion Ghana cedis loss in 2022. This was after the Bank of Ghana had to take a haircut for most of the government bonds that it was holding to the domestic debt exchange program. The central bank is giving the assurance that it will strictly implement these policy measures to help improve its position going forward. It is also promising to continue with policy actions that would optimize its investment and operating costs to bolster efficiency and profitability. Another measure that the Bank of Ghana sees as critical to its operations is the decision to finalize the deal with government to recapitalize the institution. The Bank of Ghana believes that these measures will fast-track the recovery and build back what it describes as positive equity position within the short to medium term. Also again assured that it is in a position to carry out its basic function of maintaining price stability and other monetary actions.
George, you have filed that report, and we want to have a broader conversation on the back of this. Joining us to do that is via Zoom is banking consultant Dr. Richmond Etuahene. Thanks so much, Dr. Etuahene, for your time here on Business Live. Now, I want to pick your initial thoughts about the 10.5 billion cedis losses posted last year by the Bank of Ghana.
And good evening to your cherished listeners and viewers. I think it's just a spillover of what happened in 2022, which actually dovetailed into 2023. But the critical aspect of it is that if you look at the figures, it talks about high expenses. Basically, what it means is that previously they had liquid assets which they could use to trade on open market, rediscounting, and all the other policy tools. However, because this liquidity, which is the treasury bills or the bonds, were actually taken out of it, it means that they are having problem with revenue generation, and that actually led to the losses. So maybe, as they will be saying, they need to improve the liquidity, and they have done it. Let me tell you the secret, which they have done. A lot of people haven't come to realize what they have done. The literature says that when you are in such position, you should use higher cash reserve, which will put you in high liquidity. That will enable you to perform the liquidity functions of the central bank. So that is what they did in April, I think in April or May, which a lot of people do not connect this. That is one of the strategy. And the literature says that if you have higher reserves, it helps the banks to work up the liquidity aspect to improve improve the losses. So I believe what they have done this year, because they have clocked too much from the banks, now they put in position that when they are doing the open market operation or rediscounting or the OMO or the repurchasing, they're not going to incur a lot of losses, which would improve their revenue position to go above the cost of business. So that is what I would say for the time being.
I see. So I don't know whether you are convinced that a 10.5 billion cedis loss could be indeed be as a result of the impact of the DEP, largely so.
It's attributed to it because if you have an asset, they were holding a lot of government asset, serious. So when the DDEP came, that it affected their liquidity position. Let us get it. If you were holding bonds, you could trade the bonds. If you were holding those treasury bills, you could do that. But unfortunately, in addition to the cocoa bills, all these things were basically reduced to, if you say, reduced to nothing. And because of that, they had to operate from a zero point of view. And by so doing, your interest cost or the interest expense had not gone down, but your interest income would have gone down. That leads into the losses. So that is actually a contributing factor of the losses in 2023.
All right, let's now talk about the measures being implemented to turn around the losses posted for last year. For instance, they are saying that they are refraining from monitoring financing of the government's budget. In this regard, the bank will continue to adhere to the terms of the MOU on zero financing, which was signed between the Bank of Ghana and, of course, the Ministry of Finance. Are you optimistic about that?
Well, because you've been called under the IMF program, there isn't much you can do about it. It's a jacket. They are not just saying it. It is something that was imposed on them. Because if you look at the budget financing, the fiscal budget financing, in 2020, we did 15% GDP. That was financed by the central bank. And when in 2021, we did 12.3. 2022, we did, I think, 9.3 or thereabout. Then 2023, it was 7.7. All these things have to be financed. Now that the IMF is telling you that, do zero by finance, it means that you're not going to lend any money to government. And don't forget, by monetizing or financing government, it leads to inflation and depreciation of the currency. So it is one methodology that will help the currency, at least if they stick to what they've been told, at least it will be able to stand.
I'm wondering, what more could they do beyond the zero financing, committing to the zero financing?
Well, they have appealed to the, if you have crisis and you don't want your independence to be affected, you wouldn't normally go to the central government. But they have signed an agreement. I mean, in April, they signed an agreement to the Bank of Ghana, Minister of Finance, in presence of the IMF, that they will be possibly looking at recapitalizing it to make it equity solvent, so that would improve the confidence. Don't forget, when a bank is in a negative capital, people say it's policy, what have you, policy solvency. But the nitty-gritty is that people begin, those you're dealing with, especially the external, like Bank of England, Federal Reserves, and Bundestag, these banks will then begin to look at you that you're good for nothing. So your credibility and your confidence is affected. That is the reason why they had to go to government to say, oh, we want you to take a long term to medium term so that it can be capital restoration. So if they do the capital restoration and confidence coming, and if the microeconomic environment is actually improved, high inflation coming, say about 8%, policy rate dropping, all these things will give us an enabling business environment for the central bank itself, and then in support of the banking sector.
All right, Dr. Tiahini, quickly, your thoughts on the 675.4 million cedis used to print currencies in 2023. Tenable, are they?
Well, I mean, we don't print the currencies here. Those of you who have traveled, you know where they print these currencies. And they are very expensive. I mean, currency printing is one of the very, very expensive, because the quality of the currency, if I'm not wrong, it should meet like the pound sterling or the euro or the dollar. So it is an expensive business. So I'm not surprised about the currency printing, because it is part of Bank of Ghana's duty to make sure that the currency is up and going, meeting international currency standards. I'm not surprised about, except that it has come at the wrong time. So people will see it as something. But ideally, they do print it quite often to support the currency and to make the currency actually best of best standards to meet international standards. So I'm not surprised. I will not single out that thing, because it is only because we find ourselves in a very critical and crucial position, especially in the central bank. So people will begin to look at the figures in isolation. But previously they were printing it and it was costing so much.
Dr. Richmond Tiahini, we are indeed grateful speaking to us for your great insights this evening. Let's stay a while longer with the Bank of Ghana. Well, they have reiterated their commitment to deepen regulation within the financial market. The central bank said it will prevent activities from stifling innovations within Ghana's financial sector. Speaking on behalf of the governor of the Bank of Ghana, head of risk foreign reserves management, Stephen Opata, urged central banks across the sub-region to build capacity on regulations. He was speaking at the West Africa Monetary Institute engagement with member countries.
The training was designed to strengthen participants' ability to comprehensively assess their country's macroeconomic situation, including the current state of fiscal stance, monetary policy, financial stability, and the medium-term prospects of the economy. The Bank of Ghana echoed the country's efforts in addressing its economic challenges, adding that participants can count on YFM and the Institute for Capacity Development.
As financial markets become globalized, cooperation between international regulatory bodies becomes increasingly important. Regulators equipped with a strong legal background can effectively engage in international dialogues and treaties, ensuring that domestic regulations align with global standards and practices. This alignment helps manage cross-border financial activities and combat financial crimes such as money laundering and terrorism financing. 6, adapting to technological advances. The legal aspects of bank regulation must evolve in response to technological advancements.
Speaking on behalf of the Director General of YFM, Kora Amodu said, policymakers need to build capacity and sharpen their skills to design policies that will enable countries to restore price stability and design fiscal plans to alleviate the cost of living pressures.
Objectives of this course, ladies and gentlemen, it is essential to mention that this course is meticulously crafted to enhance understanding of legal framework in central banking, central bank independence, bank regulation, and resolution issues, and challenges that goes with them. Delving into the facets of legal issues, the curriculum encompasses rich areas which will help participants to identify key legal issues relevant to regulation and supervision of banks, bank resolution, crisis management, and how international best practice that can be adopted to address those issues.
The event also took into account the sustainability of public and external debt, possible misalignment of the exchange rate, and vulnerabilities arising in different sectors.
Let's stay a while longer within the financial space because government is now close to reaching fresh deal with Eurobond holders on debt restructuring. This was after government made significant progress on the new terms for settling the $13 billion owed these creditors. Now, it is coming after the IMF projected or rejected to previous terms because it was not in line with the fund program to bring debts to sustainable levels by 2028. Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, has been speaking on CNTG Africa TV in Nairobi, Kenya, on the sidelines of the just-ended African Development Bank.
In the area of debt sustainability, you know that we are negotiating with the bondholders, Euro bondholders. We already also negotiating with our OCC, official creditors. And I can tell you that we have moved very fast, and we are very close to ending the negotiation on both ends. We're also very close to ending our negotiation with the Eurobond holders. This year, the figures we are seeing already show that we are likely to perform better than what was projected for the year. And this is as a result of the increased investment in agriculture, in industrialization, but we're also launching a new program, the SME Growth and Opportunity Program, that will mobilize resources to increase financing to SMEs.
Now, very quickly, I just want to ask about debt, because I want to get a sense of how you plan to manage Ghana's debt position going forward to ensure that it doesn't find itself in a similar situation.
This year is going to be that of a difference. We're going to work within the budget, and going forward, we're going to ensure that we do not overspend. We do not engage in extra budgetary spending. Already, we have seen the debt levels, debt to GDP, reducing from about 73.4% the year before to about 71% today. And we are determined to go on that path until we achieve 55% debt to GDP ratio. Secondly, we have to be aggressive with revenue. We have to mobilize more revenue so that we can finance the budget.
This year's AFDB meeting, we're discussing reforming the global financial architecture. We're also talking about mobilizing resources for Africa's sustainable growth. And I want to get a sense of what are the key issues for Ghana at this meeting?
I think that the global financial architecture is really not favorable to developing countries. I mean, particularly those of us in Africa. Because I'll give you an example. The IRENA is International Revenue Agency, estimates that for the last 10 years, 2.3 trillion US dollars went into renewable energy investment.
Mohamed Amin Adam is Ghana's finance minister speaking in Kenya. They just ended AFDB's conference there. Now, to one of our headline stories, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, over the weekend announced an upward adjustment of electricity and water tariffs. According to the PURC, the increment takes effect from July 1 to September 30th. Now, by this, electricity tariffs for lifeline consumers and other residential consumers who are not part of the lifeline category, as well as non-residential category, have been increased by 3.45% and 5.84% respectively, while water tariffs will experience an increase of 5.16% for all customer classes for the period under review. Let's hear from the business community, and we've been joined via Zoom by the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries, Yonam Apelu. Thanks so much, Yonam, for agreeing to speak to us on Business Live. Now, were you expecting this level of increase for water and electricity, you would say?
Good evening, Pius, and good evening to your cherished listeners. So certainly not. Given our situation in industry these days, we do not expect any increment at all from any of the utility organizations. But be as it may, we also recognize the realities of the time and know how the inflationary situation in the country has meant that the prices must go up. But the issue really is that all of these increments are going to affect industry directly and negatively. It is making the cost of production very high and uncompetitive, because if you take water, for example, most of our member companies use water as raw material for production. In fact, most of the beverage companies virtually have to depend on water to produce their produce. And what it means is that a little increment in the cost of water affects the entire cost of production. And mind you, we have to be dealing with many other equally serious matters, of daily free fall of the cedi to a high cost of borrowing money to a high levels of inflation. So it's really very difficult for us at this moment to again now see another increment in utility. So we fully appreciate the regulator. We know that it's a very difficult movement, and they of course also have to cover their cost. But we're saying that it's not a welcoming news for industry, because then it's really worsening the plight of industry. And that's exactly our point.
Having enumerated the impact this would have on you, is that to say that it will necessitate an increase or translate into prices going up, or basically consumers would have to pay more for any goods or services they try to purchase?
Certainly somebody must pay for this cost. Somebody must pay. The issue now is to be able to determine whether we are able to shift this cost to the consumer or whether we have to endure it. The reality is that it is difficult to assume that you can easily shift this to the consumer, given that these days we have several products in the market that are imported, and most of them do not have to meet the standard. There's increase in importation of fake products and all of that. And we have to compete with these people. That's where the challenge is. So the challenge is that if you increase the price of your products, you are priced out of the market. And you would have observed that some companies are closing down. In fact, very often more than anticipated, because they are unable to compete in the market, because the prices of raw materials are going up, the prices of utilities are going up, yet you're unable to increase the price of your product, because if you do, you'll be priced out of the market. So this is really the situation we find ourselves now, and it's a very difficult situation for us.
And Chonam, this is a quarterly tariff review. What's going to be your expectations in the next quarter? I know certainly you are looking forward to some reduction in utility tariffs.
Our prayer is that, first, we appreciate that the utility regulator has to deal with many issues, including the free fall of the CD and the economic realities of the day. We believe that, at least for industry, they have to be extremely considerate. We want to see them maintain at least the price of utility for some time. That allows us to be more stabilized, rather than seeing an upward adjustment. We know they have to review it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be an upward adjustment. We want to see a downward adjustment as well in favor of industry.
Chonam Mapelu, grateful speaking to us on Business Live. He's the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries. Now, some players within the financial sector are calling for more initiatives to boost financial inclusion. According to the Chief Executive Officer for Exchange Traded Funds, Joel Felix Kirk, more sensitization program is key to boost the confidence of investors. He spoke to Joy Business at the DEFT Ghana conference.
The conference was aimed at promoting interest in savings and investment amongst the youth, thus boosting financial literacy. Cook urged individuals to take advantage of various investment offerings.
We are right now having our first live event here in Accra, Ghana, and DETF is the first trading platform, investment platform that basically suits the needs of Africans. This means we offer everything all in one place: crypto, stocks, ETFs, commodities, and it's basically the future in terms of financial inclusion. So basically people with low entry barriers have the possibility to invest like a pro. And this is why we are here, because we want to share the next generation trading platform for the future of Africa.
Exchange traded funds are investment funds that trade on stock exchanges, much like individual stocks.
So we've been building the ETF for the last 3 years in cooperation with our Ghanaian community, and that's why we have made the ETF the way it is and why it serves the needs of Africans. DETF is a company registered in Germany, which basically is like the highest compliant country in the world to ensure the trust. And there are easy steps on how you can participate on DETF. So step 1, go to www.d/etf.com, register, log in, deposit via USDT, and you can start to trade and invest or buy DETF packages.
And that's why we part company here on Business Life. With me, Pius Kojopaka. For more stories, feel free. Do log on to myjoyonline.com/business. AFDB revises Ghana's growth rate to 3.4% for 2024, 4.3% for 2025. Also on that portal, BoG spent 675.4 million cedis to print currencies in 2023. More stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. See you same time tomorrow. Bye.